What is up, guys? Wraec here with a new video, and today we are going to take a look at Star Swordsman Mogman in PvP. You're seeing here my D12 Destiny rank 6 SSS tier Star Swordsman Mogman. That are way too many words, but that's alright. And I tested him quite a while actually now in PvP, tried different teams, tried a team like this. And I want to share my results with you, share a bit of footage with you. You can already see a fight in the background here. And for me, I would just start by saying he is the solo carry machine in PvP. Like, never quite seen a hero, maybe DTV, that is quite like that, where everything that you place around him is optional, it's extra. You have some synergy with other heroes, you have some synergy with HHA, for example. Those shields definitely help him survive. But you don't, you could, for example, put a TBB next to him. But you don't need to. You can, but you don't need to. Sometimes it's good, sometimes that would be bad. He, in general, can solo survive, can solo clear, and that's quite great. So in this team here right now that we are seeing, I mainly put supporters around him. We just have this DGN, yeah, she can do some damage, but she is a supporter. We have Ferrokin Vesa here for some heal, we have HHA here for some shields, and yeah, there were some concerns that maybe in the Nirvana variant it would really be that the DT skill only activates when he takes damage, because we can take a look at that. There is this tree, and it actually also says when taking damage from active skills or basic attacks. It did so too in the base version of the skill, and this one also activated when he got hit on the shield and not really on the HP bar. As you know, damage to the shields is not really damage. It doesn't count as damage in the game, it is just a hit to the shield. But it counts for this skill as long as he doesn't dodge, for example, because of a PDE or something like that. He will activate his DT skill, and that works fairly well. I didn't find too many bugs. Some of those things are a little bit worse than I expected. I think we can go over some of his notable skills here. We have the totally normal versions of transition power gain. Nothing too special. It is not worth taking this one. You can either go active skill or basic skill. I go active skill. For this one, I went for damage. There is also this stun node that is pretty cool. The stun node is really nice because every time he gets hit, he basically hits the entire enemy team and has a chance to stun them all. And stun is something, well, in current PvP meta, enemies are not commonly immune to that, unlike Twine. People go for Twine immunity in general, but fairly rarely have stun immunity, so that works out pretty well. You have to keep in mind though, he is a warrior, so he does not benefit from all of the control precision or CI offset buffs that we see in the treasure train or from star spawn. So his CC chance isn't too high. Oftentimes you won't see too much of it. And on other times I noticed, well, it is more common that you get stuns on the hero that wouldn't harm you when they attack you. For example, you stun SQH. Well, if she attacked you, that wouldn't have done too much harm, but it would have triggered a counterattack by your SSM. So in that sense, there is the question that has to be made, whether you rather want her to attack. So I went with the extra damage. Some extra damage is always nice, so I did that. Attack reduction is pretty good because you want him to be hit, but you don't necessarily want him to die. So spreading attack reduction on the enemy is fairly interesting. We also have this crit node here. Crit reduction is fairly rare, so it's also definitely an option. I tried both. Both worked pretty fine. I now went with mostly attack reduction on all of my heroes. And here we have the 2000 attack damage to all enemies. It's a pretty good node. We saw something similar on Star Alchemist Homesiang. There it was actually 3000%. But the other things, I think, just don't come close to it. This is just very well or very good node that you can use in all of situations. Here I tried this. Doesn't restore too much HP actually. Even if you hit the HP bars, that is just not a great HP restoration. I thought it would be like Eloise healing back up again and you can maybe run him without HHA, and it didn't really work out for me. Maybe with some more heal effect, something like that. But oftentimes you fight against the PDE, then your heal is reduced anyway, and then, yeah, this node didn't do too much. You can either go speed or all damage dealt. All damage dealt is very nice, so we should switch that. And yeah, so those are the nodes that I looked over. I tried multiple artifacts here as well. Auspicious Lucky Cat worked reasonably well. We have some control immunity here, we have all damage reduction. You get the attack reduction, you will see that in a lot of the fights that I did, so that is a fairly good artifact. You can also run more offensive build with Elusive Mirror, but that is like the thing that I did. Let's look at some more fights. Okay, next fight here, same team that you saw before, now attacking actually. You can see still not a lot of divine immunity there, definitely have to improve that somehow. It's still quite bothersome to me that I don't have a good SQH, PDE or HHA, now that I know I use them in PvP. And yeah, don't really have the copies. But as long as the SSM stays there, he can do some stuff, and I think this fight more so than the other one even will demonstrate how much SSM alone can really do, already taking out the heroes that are more squishy, in this case the TBB. And one thing that I already explained a little bit in the video about the artifact I thought about was he can really suffer from attribute reductions. That is something that I noticed. You now get to those later rounds with him, you often end up with around 6, 7, something like that. Really the areas where we formerly only saw DTV and DTV ended fights, there we also can sometimes go with SSM. And on the way to that, you often get hit with so many attribute reductions that they become something you have to worry about, which wasn't the case necessarily on a build like TBB Burst or a Star Alchemist Holmes Young Burst. You didn't really think about attribute reductions there. Here, you kind of have to worry about that. There isn't really the option to do a lot against it though, which I noticed, which is kind of a horrible thing. So here we can see it, like really, he did all of the work and pretty much cleared the entire team alone. Can watch another fight. And yeah, so attribute reductions end up being one of the more common ways this build loses, by just not getting any more damage from SSM, because as soon as your attack value obviously hits 0, well, your SSM is not going to do anything anymore. And you can run attribute reduction, but then again, there is so much CC. Just look at that. You have HHA, who's super common, and he can stun you. And then if you don't have attribute reduction, well, you are stunned for quite some time. We have PDE here, which has Horrify, and also, of course, TBB, which we counter with our bonus stats, but still. And then we have DTV, who can freeze. Happens more often than you would think. But yeah, it is something that happens, and there we can see it only once. Right now, we're actually on pretty low attack. And it happens because of DGN, and it doesn't always stay there very long, because obviously those attribute reductions, they run out. But sometimes it just is enough so that a DTV like that survives for a bit longer and makes it possible for that DTV to land the weakness disclosure active that you wanted to avoid all of the time. Yeah, so the -1s that you see now when the DTV, when the SSM gets hit, that is actually Auspicious Lucky Cat, because we now obviously had quite some time to stack that up. And yeah, then it becomes quite strong actually. Another thing that I noticed, and that is one of the more critical things that I will actually report to the support and hope to get fixed. As soon as our Star Swordsman Mogman is CC'd, meaning a CC that keeps him from doing basic attacks or active skills, he will stop doing his DT skill. So he will no longer do those counter attacks when he gets hit. And the reason for that is likely that they programmed it like a counter attack. And so the CC actually blocks it. And I don't think that's very much fair. So now in this situation, we no longer, is actually a nice example, because that is a very common one. An HHA actually counterattacking, stunning our SSM, and then our SSM sometimes on round 2 already being out of commission, no longer doing his Destiny transition skill. And yeah, I don't think that's a bug. Other heroes do their Destiny transition skill when they are CC'd. And in this situation, I think it's a very weird choice that they said, okay, like it's a counterattack. Of course, it works like a counterattack, but if all of the other ones are just passive skills that still trigger, I think this one should too. So that is my take on that. Again, the damage results, they look pretty similar. The heroes that survive are different sometimes, but you can see how much of a solo carry hero he really is. Let's watch another one. So Beyond that, I kind of think that you either need to also do some precautions against CC, which means either you run a Lucky Candy Bar, which Lucky Candy Bar was suggested to me by a lot of people, but you have to keep in mind if you run him at highest attack, Lucky Candy Bar also has the disadvantage, it will just block the taunt and then no longer the twine that you really want to block. So an S tier is very helpful. Another way that I saw, and that the guildmate actually ran, was he ran it with a support Ignis. A suicide Ignis that would just die, make that Mockman CC immune, and also give him a bunch of energy, which you need to activate your DT, because now I ran active skill transition power gain that he also did with the suicide Ignis. And then, of course, you can activate your DT on turn 1 even, so Suicide Ignis has a lot of advantage there. Only problem that there is, of course, well, you kind of are sacrificing one slot on your team, and that can be a very big disadvantage, actually. Also, attack attribute reductions and DT skills and other skills focus more on the remaining heroes, which brings them in a bit of a peril. So, yeah, that is definitely also something to keep in mind. But here, again, ton of counterattacks, just an absolute madness. One last weakness that I found out, though, he lacks a bit of finishing power. You wouldn't really think that, given that Star Swordsman Mockman is such a bursty hero, but where DTV really shines in just entering this round 6 and absolutely murdering the entire enemy team, SSM is just on a very constant scale of damage. He needs a few enemies there to attack him, to counterattack, to hit those remaining enemies. And if you have a very strong single hero there, like a BQA, I've fought a few Destiny rank 6 BQAs, sometimes he just lacks the power to finish them, and they will out-heal his damage, activated very little time, and then of course you are in a bit of a problematic situation and really would want a second damage dealer, which is not in this team right now. But you could put something in here, you could combine it with Patricia, Rion Tomb, something like that, something that has a bit of finishing power and can remove those last 1-2 heroes where he struggles a little bit. But yeah, so that is mostly all I have to say there. I still want to watch another fight with you guys. Let's do that. That's a cool thing. Actually, we have this situation where we have a lot of those fights here in Voidhorde saved. And yeah, that is one of the horrible situations. We attacked, we got CC'd. Sometimes, if the enemy runs HHA core, you are taunted, you do the basic attack, hit the HHA counterattacks, and now you are stunned and taunted, which might just lead to the taunt being removed, and then you're still stunned on the next turn. So then those situations with a bit of energy drain from maybe an enemy DGN, you can end up starting your DT the first time on turn 4, which is a horrible thing. And yeah, here we also apparently got a bit energy drained. So yeah, not too great. Not too great in this situation. Maybe, in summary, where would I rank him? Where would I rank him in all of the PvP heroes that we have? So, I mean, on the upper level, the best PvP hero right now, are we doing a bit of a leaderboard, okay? The best PvP hero right now, in my opinion, is Alchemist Tom's-Young. Is just hands down the best hero. I tried a lot of heroes. He just has so much damage, so much utility with his Perceptual Disorder. It's just place 1. Directly below that, BQA. BQA insane in PvP at the moment. Also one of those heroes that can trigger the DT multiple times. And then on one stage, I see Star Swordsman Mockman and DTV actually. DTV, not because he's necessarily stronger than Star Swordsman Mockman. I think Star Swordsman Mockman has more clear power, especially on those turns 1, 2, 3, 4. But actually because you don't really need to invest a lot into him. He's not required to be Nirvana. You can run him at a lower level and just make a bit of a tanky team around him, and you will be mostly fine. Won't win every single fight, but if that active skill, for example, there was a weakness disclosure active, we would be dead right now. But in this situation, you see the DT counterattack coming in, and obviously that is a bit stronger. So in terms of power, SSM is over DTV, but just for the sheer lack of things, or the sheer amount of things that you just don't need on a DTV to make him work, I think DTV is also very, very strong. So that is about what I would set him. At the moment, those guys are still fairly cheap in the auction house. I was a bit surprised. I thought when I make my first video, it was actually already be a bit more expensive, but we still see like this one, 53k for SSS tier, for an SS tier. And there were some other ones. I think maybe they were already bought. Okay. No, we're still full here. 75k for an SSS tier. Okay, not the nicest copy, but this one, 55k at an S tier. Not too bad. So I thought, yeah, pretty nice actually. Still a bit of a cheap hero. Still a bit of a nice pick. The other two that I talked about, BQA and Steiger with Storm's already went through the roof. Those copies are now expensive. I actually sold my BQA recently. And you wouldn't even believe for how much. Okay, I also bought a Geggy, by the way. Also bought a Geggy. I sold it for 95,500, my S Arena. Insanity, guys. Insanity. Best PvP right now, not a lot of S tier heroes there. Makes kind of sense that they are that expensive. But yeah, so just want to talk about that. Definitely recommend him. Definitely a cool hero to play around with. I will try some more things with him, and then probably go to Star Alchemist Tom's Young again, to be honest, because I think that is just definitely the best hero at the moment. So, that being said, I wish you guys a great day. We'll see us in the next one.